Hey guys, Tracy here. I am back. It's Friday. We made it to the end of the week, and boy was this a stressful week for me. This was the ultimate test in balancing my time between work and my family. So I made it, and I'm here to offer some tips to you on how to balance your personal time and writing time. So like I said, this week while my kids were testing, I was being tested in my parenting skills and my time management skills and my coping skills as a person and a mom. So this week's tip applied to my own children. We have to learn how to accept people for who they are. This doesn't just mean accepting people who are in your environment. It also means accepting what you are able to do and accomplish, accepting what your abilities and strengths are, and realizing that you can't do everything. And people around you can't do everything. You can't set impossible standards for people who aren't able to reach those goals. The first thing you have to remember is don't expect others to give the same effort that you're willing to give. This is something I've struggled with as a wife and a teacher and a mom. Sometimes I have high expectations for my kids because they're my kids and I feel like I've taught them to do things the way I would do them. But as I said, this week proved me wrong. You can't let go completely just because you feel like your kids are getting a little bit older and more responsible. You still have to go behind them and check them. Just like with your adult friends, you can't turn everything over to them and expect them to do the kind of job that you would do. Another thing you need to keep in mind is don't do favors for people expecting reciprocation. I've seen this a lot in the writing and publishing industry. You meet an author and they're, willing to do a review swap, or, I'll give you a free book if you give me your feedback. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with giving away free books to get honest feedback. But as Amazon states in their rules, you can't give out free books with the sole intent of receiving reviews. So that's something to keep in mind. As well, even in your personal life, you can't do a favor for someone, perhaps babysitting their children, only to have that reciprocated, if that's your only goal in doing so. You learn that your sister is always going to be late for the family functions, or your mother-in-law is never going to send out birthday invitations on time. Just remember that these people are still important in your lives. They still play an important role, and just because they don't live up to your standards does not mean they're not worth keeping around. In fact, these people are necessary and crucial in our lives because they push us to become the best versions of ourselves. We watch people and learn by example. Everyone in this world is setting an example for someone, whether you realize it or not. And people are setting examples for us. Our parents set examples for how we want to parent when we have children. Our bosses set examples for how we would want to run our businesses. And the final thing to keep in mind is don't assume. Everybody knows what that joke is when you assume things. I won't even repeat it here, but assuming can be dangerous. Don't assume that your children are ready to do things on their own or everything on their own just because they're showing a little bit of responsibility. As I said, I assumed my son told me the right time to be at testing today, but he ended up being 30 minutes late. And I am not normally late. I just took it at his word that he had kept up with the schedule because he's 17. But like I said, you can't assume from other people. It can just drive you crazy. You can create these scenarios in your head. Don't assume that your husband is at a bar when he's a little bit late coming home. Don't assume that readers don't enjoy your books because they haven't submitted their reviews yet. When you assume, you just torture your mind and, like I said, create these scenarios in your head that can drive you crazy. The biggest problem with assuming is most of the time we have it all wrong. We've thought of all the worst case scenarios and reasons why these people are not doing what you expect them to do. We've set up these expectations and standards in our heads, and these people haven't reached those standards, and we have driven ourselves crazy with all the what ifs, but it usually ends up being something simple that is easy to explain, and if you had had the patience, you would have found that out before you went through all that trouble. Some people are leaders and some people are followers, and that's okay, because think about it. If everyone was a leader, who would you lead? If you enjoyed this tip today, please be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel so you'll get these videos with great tips every Friday on how to keep your real life flowing as smoothly as your writing. Take care.